expects ROI within a month or two. And but when you're doing an online, you're expecting an ROI on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis. Give the same time frame. You can one of the tests which we did was Bangalore, we did offline, Hyderabad we did online. Same time. I mean, in terms of the third thing that you can do is location-based targeting. So you open up, give more control to Google, specific to a location, Bangalore. So consider it like an offline campaign that you're doing in Bangalore via Google. So you can test it out. So when we did the real offline campaign in Bangalore and we did one in Hyderabad on Google by targeting Hyderabad customers only in Hyderabad and giving more letting Google target the ads, basically giving the control over to the AdWords platform along with a couple of remarketing and everything. The growth was the same, okay, but the cost was one third of Bangalore and Hyderabad. So I see my like I said, mine here is not new ways to do stuff. It's new ways to look at stuff, because the way we have been looking at AdWords is from a very small box of keyword, immediate ROI, and not much related to brand. Actually, it can give you a good branding if you give it time. Give it time, test and try it out, and you would find that to a great extent your brand building or the trust element that gets built with the customer when you're doing it online is much more stronger than when you do it offline. Offline gives you the burst, but it does not give you that stamina over a longer period of time. It does not improve repeat usage. It does not improve a lot of other things. So I think I've been very specific to how to build a brand or how to look at building brands online versus offline for an online business. So any questions? I think we can take it forward as a discussion, because I can see lots of people have questions in terms of you know, the thought process is different. It's a new thing. Previously, AdWords is immediately you need to track conversions on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week, and I think in a way AdWords platform also helps you to build that kind of thought process. So yeah, sure. See, when it comes to a product, you want to sell a product online, like a Flipkart or lots of other companies that sell products online. Your products are commoditized, standardized, warranty is there, and you know that you can, to a great extent, you can ride on the warranty or the branding of the company who's made the products. But for a services business like us, it's completely different. We have to first of all build a trust element for us, and we have to build a trust element for the hotel, because we are dealing with the 1,000 and lesser category hotels. And so from that perspective, branding is very important, because what is branding apart from communicating a simple idea and building a trust that you can be reliable, so one of the reasons that the service, at least in the travel sector in terms of hotels, is different from the other verticals is, you book a flight ticket, or it does not matter whether it's a Jet Airways or a SpiceJet, as long as the flight takes off, your seat is the same. Which aircraft it is, it does not matter. Your experience is the same, right? You get into an airport and you get out till you get out of the other airport. Your experience also is the same. The same thing with a bus, a Volvo bus, whether it's this proprietor or that proprietor, the seats are commoditized. But when it comes to a hotel, it's not. The product is not standardized. It is not a product. Actually, it needs to become a service. The reason is, 800 rupee room in Mysore is going to be different from a 800 rupee room in Mumbai, right? So and this is not something that you can solve with more information, because the customer's purpose of travel also gets reflected in the stay component. If you're traveling for a weekend, your requirement of stay is different. If you're traveling with family, it's different. If you're traveling with kids, it's different. If you are traveling as an unmarried couple, it's different, because 90% of the hotels that we carry do not allow unmarried couples. So everything is different, right? Your purpose of travel gets reflected in the stay. So from that perspective, uh, uh, we are not a product company. We're more of a services company selling hotels online, and that's how we look at ourselves. And to tie into how brand engagement plays for a services company, especially online, you do need to have a stronger brand than if you're selling a product, because you want to buy a plasma TV, you have 3 or 4 different players going to look at the price, because plasma TV is guaranteed by some other guy. But when it comes to a services company, let it be a SaaS, or whether it be hotels like us or any other, you have to think whether you're a product or a services. And if there is more involvement of services, or customers perceive you as a service oriented company, there is a very strong necessity for you to build a brand, because the brand communicates trust, it communicates something else also to the customer. So knowing that brand is so important, our growth strategy is not based on building brands offline. We are very confident that we'll be able to take it up. Currently, whatever we're doing, 500 room nights, we can take it up to 30 or 40,000 room nights in the next 3 years, and purely focusing on online. So that you would be seeing, in the sense that you're not going to be seeing a lot of, you're not going to be seeing any campaign on TV or stuff like that. And but you're going to be seeing a lot of things that we are doing online. We have been taking baby foots towards this kind of a paradigm where we can use online to build brands, and we have now in pipeline a couple of good ideas which can be executed via AdWords and stuff like that, which takes more than just a keyword based advertisement as a focus. Right. So from 2005 to 2012, that is when we got our seed angel round from IN. We invested a total of 18 lakhs. And by the time IN had come in, we were doing around 2 crore sales per annum. And that 18 lakhs was spent only on AdWords, online, and on AdWords. So since IN came in, we took that 18 lakhs to 80 lakhs, and we closed the year with 7 crores worth of sales. And it's been so. See, again, I want to reiterate, the thing is, it is not, I don't want people to look at it as a ROI based stuff. See, when you're building a brand, or when you're looking at an offline campaign, think if you can bring it online. I'm not asking you to change your current keyword based campaigns where you're focusing on conversions into letting it run loose. No, create a new campaign, have an offline element, have a branding element to it, run it for 6 months, try it out. We do a lot of testing and trials in terms of what are the conversions for specific locations, specific campaigns, etc., etc. So any questions on how it can be done, ideas, because we are also taking baby steps in this direction. And see, our average cost per click, there are different campaigns with different themes, right? So when it comes to a keyword based campaign, in terms of where you're competing with a lot of bidders, that can go up to 20 rupees. At the same time, when somebody is searching for, let's suppose, Tawang hotels, there's not much competition there. It can fall down to 3.5. So average CPC, I think, would be around 8 or 9. I don't do any SEO spend. See, one thing is, I don't even know how much free traffic I'm getting. Every day we get a mail on how many visitors came from AdWords or other affiliates from Facebook. We don't track what is the free traffic we're getting, because you can't build a business based on free traffic. Whatever comes, it's good. It's the icing on the cake. If it doesn't come, it's good. It doesn't matter. You have a business based on how much you can spend, how much you can get. So SEO, I don't know. Yeah. 7 crore sales. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So our net revenue would be around 90 lakhs. Correct. So actually, you see, if you look at some of these companies' financials, you take out and look at what is their marketing spend and what is their revenue. You're not going to find 1:1, right? So that's where I'm telling, our cost is 1/3. You'll actually see it, and it's because, in a way, we see. I was very hesitant to give control to Google on lots of these things. And what happens is, initially, whenever we used to give control, like enhanced broad match or things like that, within 15 days, I'll shut off the campaign, because the ROI is not working within 15 days. But over a 3-month period, 4-month period, it starts working out. Because there is some, I don't know where the perception problem is. Is it not being communicated correctly to the advertiser that there is a branding element, which if you go offline is going to cost more, or whether we are not perceiving it in the right manner? But that is you have to give a 3-month or 6-month window, just like how you give an offline campaign for lots of these things.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hi. So most of the guys today like Airbnb, most of the guys today like Airbnb, Expedia, etc. The hotel bookings segment, they basically bet on the unsold inventory of hotels, or for that matter, people are letting out their houses, holiday homes, and things of that sort. So when such things happen, I mean, of course, forget about what the experiences are. When such thing happens, it's a lot tentative in a lot many cases, because there are possible sales challenges from different ends.
Sales challenge.
Say for instance, a hotel. Let's say Royal Orchid has a few undealt with rooms, which is going to give you at a rate, a discounted rate on Stayzilla, right? And tomorrow suddenly somebody comes up and says, I want to book all the 10 rooms that have been given. In such a case, it's the preference is given more to the person who walks into the hotel.
Correct.
Or whatever. So how do you deal with such situations when there's a clash of
that it's getting into a service model which we have a thing called Asta check-in service. So what we do is it's not just Royal Orchid. Royal Orchid is a wonderful hotel in terms of the quality of management and commitment to worth, but we really do sell 400 rupee rooms in some tier 3 towns. So one of the things that we have developed is that or we have understood is that you can't lay the onus on the hotel to keep their word or commitment. You need to have your own process. So we have a process called Asta check-in. Okay, what we do is assisted check-in service. So 2 days before a customer checks in, we anyway get their check-in time, pass it to the hotel on the check-in day. We are on call with the hotel to make sure the customer is checked in. So that's a part. I mean, we solve that problem, and I think that is the product or service differentiation I was talking about. If you have that, then you can compete online, okay, spending lesser money and build a better brand. Because at the end of the day, if your product, you're just selling hotel rooms like everybody else, okay, and there is no service layer or service component involved, then you have to go where the others are going to advertise. So it helps to have some kind of a differentiation which you can clearly bring out online. See, our average spend in season. See, we are a seasonal business, right? So during season, when we're getting into seasons, last December we have spent around 13 lakhs in that month, and off seasons it comes down to 3 or 4 lakhs. But we'll be spending more, 10 times more in the coming years per month. We have hotels in 750 cities or towns. So one advantage is that, see, as long as competition doesn't get hotels up in those places, pretty much when it comes to bidding, there are not many people who bid for those keywords, so it becomes a little bit more easier. See, ROI, like I said, we used to calculate on a monthly basis. So what we have done is, I want to calculate the ROI. Okay. At the same time, I don't want to let go of having a branding over 6 months. So separate out a campaign. You have a couple of campaigns where you are concerned about immediate ROI, and you have a campaign, consider it as an offline spend which you're doing on Google. Okay, give more control to Google. Give it a 3-month or 4-month window. A customer acquisition cost is actually 250 rupees.
Check.
See, offline marketing, we have done 3 campaigns. One in Bangalore, 7 lakhs, Mumbai, 7 lakhs, Chennai, 7 lakhs. Okay. The rest all we have spent across 1.5 crores in advertising and marketing since inception. Everything else has been online. So we are not that bullish on offline campaign or marketing as a way to fuel our growth. We are an online business. You can build a nationwide brand, but that's not going to convert into sales. Somehow, users comfortable going to Google and anyway searching out for your name. It's cheaper to be present there, instead of having to spend offline and spend online. That's a good question. So one of the ways in which you can strengthen your brand is the remarketing, focused remarketing, and our remarketing, this thing is 30%. And again, what kind of a message you put out and that place into it, and how long you want to carry it and stuff like that. So there are months where we don't do any new customer acquisition, we only do remarketing. Right. So we don't spend anything on keywords, we only do remarketing, and it works out for us.
Since we are running late on time, can we have last question, please? Last.
See,
Somewhere for international customers also come to your hotel.
so we have different campaigns targeting different demographics in terms of customers from where they're coming. So we have an international campaign that's a different budget, but within India also we don't target domestic as such as India. We target at a city level. So yeah, that's a little bit more work, but that you get the bang for the buck. We never target at India level. We target at a city level or a state level max.
Do we target city, or I'll say the clients are actually residing outside? When they come, they search for hotels in Bangalore.
Correct.
So if they fly in Bangalore, they would like to check it up beforehand, before
See,
landing.
customer in Bangalore searching for hotels anywhere. So we target people in Bangalore, customers in Bangalore. Same like that, we have different cities, and we have a separate block called Tier 2, where we have done a groundwork where we know what is the internet penetration, what is the per capita income, how many people transact, and target them. So see, like I said, that the amount of work you do offline, it's not going to reduce when you bring it online. Only the cost, but you can more. I mean, that at the end of the day, for business, that's what matters, right?
Excuse me.
Guys to do AdWord, how much you have to train them, and while you are scaling, how much that comes
Getting
in?
an AdWords guy or for somebody to manage SEM is the easiest part, because they will pay for themselves. You need to have the budget, right? See, at the end of the day, you have a budget of 20 lakhs per month, and that person can increase the effectiveness of your budget by 1 or 2 lakhs. His salary is coming from there.
Yeah, but you have to educate him that you have a different business model, and you have to advertise for a particular market, and then you have to train them. And
Absolutely.
so, does that prevent you from scaling up?
Yeah, see, so if there is any interested or people, we are hiring. Okay, our model is different. The way we look at AdWords, so we perfectly be willing to catch up on what we are doing and then give it over to somebody who can run it full time. So I also put in a application. If anybody is interested, you can contact me.
Okay, I have a question.
Thank you so much.
One question.
You can catch up during tea.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a big round of applause for him? Thank you. So, why is the pulse of the crowd going down? No energy? Okay. Can you please leave all your belongings to a side and stand up? Everybody? Yeah. Well, let's check. Let's check on that. Okay. Raise your hands. Clap. Clap. Okay. It is like one clap and you say Google. Okay? Start. Google. 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 Sit down. Thank you. Can you all please stand up? So now I hope all of you are awake. Yeah? Attentive? Because we have Varun Agarwal coming next, and please sit down. Thank you. Varun is the co-founder of Alma Mater, Reticular, and Last Minute Films. He is also the author of the book, How I Braved Anuvanti and co-founded a $1 million company. During his college days in Bangalore, he started filmmaking and founded Last Minute Films at the age of 19. After finishing his graduation, he briefly worked with the director of Fat Fish Films, and at the age of 21, he directed Bollywood superstars Preeti Zinta and A.R. Rahman in music videos. At the age of 23, he co-founded his second business venture, Alma Mater. It is now India's largest company for merchandise, providing merchandise to students of college and schools. Varun has been featured on cover of India Today as well as CNBC Young Trucks Show. Can we have a big round of applause for him? I also call up Joe to share a few words about him.
So nothing too much. As you saw from the last talk also, it's all about emotional connect, right? And I think Varun is going to extend the last conversation with his own flavor of how you can give an emotional connect with t-shirts, right? And how it stands for much larger. And we started the morning with that, right? With Carl talking about the why. Why are we in business, right? And once again, Varun has used other tools, online tools, to take his business to where it is connecting with his customers. So over to him to tell us how he's done that.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. No, this is enough. Is it? The presentation is not showing. All right. So, actually, I'm just going to talk about my story first, about how we started up and all of that, and then I think we can get into the technical questions in the Q&A part. My story is mostly going to be about how the online media actually brought a paradigm shift in my life, like completely changed my life at moments that I couldn't even imagine. So throughout my life, everyone around me had always told me this one word: think. Think before you do anything. My parents, my family, my teachers, everyone around always stressed on this one word. But I soon realized that this one word actually caused me more harm than anything else. But then I came across these two words. And then I realized that these two words are actually helping me do what I really want to do. So I'm going to tell you guys my story and tell you how these two words have actually helped me really shape my life up. When I was in school, I used to think before I would raise my hand to ask the teacher a question. I would think before I would answer the questions in my own words because I had to memorize them. I would think before doing anything. All other thinking obviously got me into a lot of trouble because I didn't end up doing anything at all. But in 11th standard, I became extremely fascinated by this concept of filmmaking. The fact that you can take a small little handycam and show the rest of the world what's inside your head, I thought that's a very, very powerful medium. So I took my handycam, I shot short films with my mom, my dog, my cat, whoever was willing to act in my films, and showed it to whoever was willing to watch them on a VCR. So in the 12th standard, I came up with this really stupid idea that I should be a filmmaker. Because in India, if you be anything other than an engineer or a doctor, you're really stupid. So I went up to my mom and her best friend, Anu Auntie. So Anu Auntie is that character in your life who's always poking her nose and trying to find out what you're up to. All of y'all must have had an Anu Auntie or still have an Anu Auntie at some point in your life. So I went up to my mom and her best friend, Anu Auntie. I told them I want to be a filmmaker. And obviously, they weren't very impressed. They never heard of this profession called filmmaking. They said that you'd rather be a plumber or a carpenter, you'll be more successful. They had this magical vision of the filmmaker being like Subhash Ghai and directing Bhaskar. Not any other concept of filmmaking. And then the problem was, because they said no, I began to do this. Maybe I won't be a successful filmmaker. Maybe I will not make enough money. Maybe my friends will be more successful. Maybe I'll just be serving tea all my life. So this one word got me into a lot of trouble because it got me into this. It's ironic that I'm speaking this in a room full of engineers, but I hated engineering. I completely hated engineering. Every minute of it. I couldn't stand it. It was not meant for me. And the first year when I got into engineering, I had no clue what they were teaching because I was completely disinterested. And that's when my life started falling apart. I started wondering, what am I doing studying this degree in which I have no interest? They reached a point where I was completely depressed, really, really depressed because I didn't know what to do with my life. And then something happened. Something really strange happened. For the first time in my life, I failed. Up until then, I was like an above average student. I'd never failed. I'd never known what it was like to fail. But in engineering, I failed. And in India, if you fail, you're like an outcast instantly. So as soon as I failed, I was that kid who had always been asked to stay in the room when some people came over, because if I was to come out and talk to them and they were to ask my marks, I would have nothing to say, right? And nobody cared a damn about me anymore. They were like, okay, he's just the last bencher, he's a failure, he can just be ignored. And that actually gave me my greatest moment of success, because now I didn't have to prove anything to anyone except myself. I didn't have to live by the system, by the rules, by all those stereotypical expectations that friends, family, and society put on me, or put on us rather. So failure actually helped me to get out my entire shell, and failure actually helped me to do this. So I stopped thinking so much, and I picked up my handycam again, and I started shooting all those short films. And this was in 2006. And suddenly I'm online, and I get this newsletter that now there's this website where you can, at the click of a button, you can upload this video, and the rest of the world can see it. Obviously, that website is youtube.com, but imagine in 2006, when a little kid is trying to make all these short films, this website comes along and says, you know what, put it up here now and let anyone anywhere in the world see it. And I was stunned. That was my biggest moment of inspiration. Up until now, I was making films with no end game, right? I would just make films, I would put it in the VCR, I would play it, and hope some people would come over to watch it. Now all I had to do was just upload that video, and it'll just travel everywhere without me knowing about it. So that is what I did. I started making all my short films and started uploading them on YouTube, and I started getting emails from people saying that they saw my video and started getting comments, and all of that constantly inspired me. That was the greatest thing about youtube.com, that it always had the comment section, it always had the feature where people could contact you directly, and every one of that inspired me. So I started getting professional work. People saw the videos on youtube.com, and they actually asked me, will you actually make videos for us for money? So in the second year of college, I started my first company, Last Minute Films, because in engineering everything happens in the last minute. So I started my company, Last Minute Films, and all of that because of youtube.com. In the third year of college, there was this band called Pentagram. They're one of India's top rock bands. So they saw some of my videos on YouTube, and they said, we're coming up with this song called Voice. We want you to make the music video, provided that it'll only be online. It'll only go up on youtube.com and not on TV. It was supposed to be India's first ever online music video made for the online media. So I made the music video using my friends and people around me. The band was not featured on it. I was asked to do it independently. I uploaded the video on youtube.com, and it ended up getting 100,000 views. When it did that, this production company in Bombay, they saw the video, and they called me to Bombay and offered me a job. Like, not to be an assistant, not to be a gopher, not to be an intern, but to direct. Because that one video on youtube.com, some production company in Bombay saw it and actually gave me the opportunity that I've been waiting for all my life. Obviously, so I was really excited. I landed up in Bombay. It was the third year of college, and I was getting a job to direct. And I called up mom and Anu auntie and told them that, this is it. And obviously, they weren't very impressed. Me, 20 years old, Bombay, directing, it didn't add up. So I had to come back to Bangalore and finish one long, torturous year of engineering. Which is really, really long. It felt like it was like 10 years. And I finished that 1 year of engineering, and I decided that from now on, I'm not going to think. I'm just going to go with it. So I took a one-way bus ticket to Bombay, and I landed up in that production company's office, hoping that they'll still have the job for me. Surprisingly, they did. I still have no clue how I managed to get that job. And a month later, they sent me to Mr. Rahman's studio to direct him in a small promo video. So here I was, after 4 years of completing telecommunication engineering in Mr. Rahman's studio, directing a video, and all because of youtube.com. The funny thing was, I was so scared while that is what I was talking about. Online media has the power to change your life in a way you can't even imagine. It's all about believing in yourself and believing in your content, and then the online media takes care of the rest. I uploaded my videos without thinking what the outcome could be, but youtube.com did everything else for me. It took it to all the people that I wanted it to go to, and it got me all the opportunities that I could have never dreamed of 10 years back. 10 years back, such a story that I'm telling you guys would not have been possible. 10 years back, I would have been with a VCR and a videotape, hunting for production companies in Bombay and trying to show them my work. But here I was, just randomly uploaded some video, randomly some company in Bombay saw it, and it's almost like a fairy tale. I can't even describe how online media helped me. So here I was directing Mr. Rahman, and I was so scared because I was wondering, how I should direct him. But luckily, he was pretty happy with the entire shoot. And at the end of the shoot, he said, "Varun, life is very very short, so just remember that you do what you believe in, you do what you love, because in no time life will just go by, and the last thing you want to do is regret that you didn't live the life that you wanted to." And I always kept those words with me. 2 months later, again thanks to YouTube.com, I was directing a music video for Shankar Ehsaan Loy. But the problem was the star of the music video was Preet Zinta, and she refused to believe I was a director. As you can make out from the photograph, she has a very very angry expression on her face, wondering what the hell is going on. That's because I was 20 and I looked 15, and she thought that we were all playing an MTV Bakra on her. So we on the day of I hadn't spoken to her up until the day of the shoot. So on the day of the shoot, I land up in a trailer, and with all the confidence in the world, I tell her that this is what we're going to do, and this is how the whole shoot is going to happen, and blah blah blah. And then she just gives me this stunned look and says, "All of that is fine, but who's the director?" And she kept looking towards her back, thinking that an MTV Bakra was going to come and bust her anytime. But this was a very very iconic moment for me because up until now I was shooting films all by myself, editing it all by myself. My crew was probably me and my cook, and the cast was all people around me. Here I was with the movie star, a crew of 40 people. The cinematographer was twice my age, and 20 kids, and it was just me trying to be their boss, right? And what I realized is that at moments like these, no textbooks or no literature can help you get through a moment. But if you can get your drunk friend home at 3 in the morning without his mom coming to know, then probably you can handle a situation like this. But I also realized that one thing that really works is confidence. If you can just stand up and just say something loudly with confidence, everyone seems to know that you know everything, like I'm doing now. And that is what I did. So I just stood up and I just screamed and I shouted and I said, "This is how you guys do it, and I'm surprised you all don't know how to do all of this." And surprisingly enough, they bought it. I mean, they started murmuring, "He knows what he's talking about. Let's listen to it." So yeah. So after the video was done, I realized that I was heading in the completely opposite direction. So this was taking me into the entire analog industry, right? I was going to be making films and videos for the television or for the big screen. But I knew that's not where the future is heading. The future is heading the other way, right? Now you have the power to watch anything you want, what time you want, and wherever you want. That's what YouTube does. So I knew this is not the future. I don't even know if cinema screens are going to survive in 10 years. I don't even know if people watch. I haven't watched TV for the last 3 years. I haven't watched because I know I can just go on YouTube and watch whatever I want when I want. So I know that this is not the right path, because I don't know how long TV is going to survive, and if it survives, I don't know how the analog media of TV is going to survive. We're probably going to have a YouTube for TV or something like that. But so I wanted to come back to Bangalore and build Last Minute Films because I knew online content is where the future lay. But that's how accidentally the second part of my journey started, in that of my second company, Alma Mater. And it started like this. So I believe all great business ideas are born when you're drunk, because when you're drunk, you think anything is possible. I'm sure your friends or you're getting drunk and you're saying, "This is our business idea, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to kill it." And on a piece of tissue paper, you write down your business ideas and all of that. And the next day with the hangover, it dies out. That's exactly what we were doing. So my friend and I, we were sitting at this pub called Noon Wines. We were drinking beer, and we suddenly started missing school. So both of us were from Bishop Cotton School, and we started missing school. We realized we have nothing to remember our school by. And then we said, we should make sweatshirts that says Cottonians, because we are called Cottonians, and we should get it for ourselves. But because we were drunk and anything was possible, we said, why not for every school and college in this country? So that is exactly what we did. Two drunk guys sitting in a bar. We drew on a piece of tissue paper to make merchandise for every school and college in this country. And hopefully, we were hoping that this idea wouldn't die out with a hangover. So the next day, we got really excited. We said, okay, we should give it a shot. We should see if this thing can work out. Now, we're not going to do one thing. We're not going to go and talk to mom and Anu Auntie about this, because we know what has happened in the future. I mean, in the past, right? So we're not going to go and tell them the idea. We're going to skip that part. The problem was that we didn't know anything about running a business. Where are we going to make these shirts? This is 2009, so we didn't know anything. And where will we get our money from? Where will we do our printing? How will we do our marketing? Absolutely nothing. I mean, I did have some experience with last minute films, but this was a completely different business. Now, most people would do this, but the problem was 4 years of engineering and they never taught me Microsoft Excel. So I didn't know how to put numbers down on Microsoft Excel and come up with charts or figures or anything. I didn't even know how to use a pivot table. So we ended up doing what we did all along. We said, let's go with the flow. If you're going to sit down here and start thinking about this business, it's never going to work out. Because that's what usually happens. You come up with a great business idea and you keep thinking and nothing ever happens out of it, right? So we decided, screw all of that. Let's just don't think. So we found a manufacturer